Hey everyone, Mrhappy here, and welcome to Mondays with Mrhappy, aka Mrhappy Mondays, the weekly Q&A show where you ask me questions and I answer them. No evening raid to get to, nothing to rush for. This is my first day in like 2 weeks where I actually have some time on my schedule to work on things. This video in particular, not doing a super lightning round version, gonna do it the way we normally do it. And oh boy am I relieved. The only thing I have to do today is to go to the grocery store so I can pick up food to do meal prep for the rest of the week. And I'm not doing the meal prep until tomorrow. So, plenty of time to actually take things in, to pay attention to the questions. So let's get to that. Thank you to our patrons over on Patreon for supporting the channel. For whatever reason, they decide to be there. And again, I got a message, someone saying, listen, times have fallen on hard times. Can't be on the list. Remember, during the pandemic, you get to stay on that list, so don't feel bad. Continue to enjoy the content. Look after yourself. That is more important than supporting a content creator on an optional platform that doesn't prevent you from losing any content. So just enjoy it. Thank you to our patrons of darkness, Khuja Cross on Jenova and Kurenai Oni. Thank you to them as well for going above and beyond. Thank you to all y'all for tuning in. Now with that, let's get to the questions. And with that, we got question number 1, hashtag Mrhappy Mondays. Hey, Haps, how you doing? I'm betting that we're having a scythe-wielding, heavy armor, melee geomancer. No. If Sage get Gundam weapons and everything's on the table. I do agree with that at the very least. This question is a short one. My question for this week is a short one. We were made aware of how much the Warrior of Light has changed over these 10 years. I think Square Enix will take this ending of an era, expect to finally pop their time bubble. I think it would make sense to set a clear, defined foundation for whatever we will be doing after 6.0. You can even argue it's not so outlandish since they made some effort to make a loose timeline in Shadowbringers. So, obviously, when we say over the past 10 years, we're referring to the length of time that has happened specifically within our understanding of time, our basic understanding since 2010 when the game actually released. We also know that that does not mean that 10 years have passed in the game. We know that time was kind of all wonky. Some characters aged more than others. They were on the first longer than other characters, depending on when they were actually called. And we never really got a solid time for exactly how much time has passed since the start of A Realm Reborn. We have a few instances where, for example, we know between 2.55 and 3.0, it's roughly 1 month. But we don't really know, and that's why the theory of the expanding time bubble exists. Basically that while more events keep taking place, more time isn't necessarily going on. They're just all taking place in a time bubble that stretches to fit these events all within the same period of time. Now, we've seen it move away from that. We have been told in various points throughout quest dialogue, especially in Shadowbringers, as you've mentioned, that certain amounts of time have passed. They acknowledge the passing of time and not that this bubble is just expanding, but it's also tough to tell. Fortunately, with the way things have been fixed on the first, we don't really have to question how much time has passed on the first versus how much time has passed on the source much anymore. It's just not much of a concern. But I don't think that changes the way that they approach the storytelling in post-Endwalkers. From 6.1 and onward, there's still going to be events that they can't predict, like how they have a general idea of how things are gonna go and how things are gonna be written, but they still need to be thinking about the things that they don't know for certain yet. Like they might have ideas or foundations laid, but they might decide they need a time bubble-esque event thing to explain things later on. It might be better off if maybe less time has passed versus just letting time flow normally and just being like, oh yeah, it's 3 months between patches, it's 3 months between story events or things like that. So obviously you're not asking for that. You're not asking for, okay, real life time needs to equate to in-game time, but I understand what you're saying. I just don't think it changes the fact that they still need flexibility in their storytelling to say that we can't just have, okay, 2 months passed here and 1 month passed here and 3 months passed here. They're going to want to be a little bit more flexible with it. So the time bubble theory is likely to keep being what is the most logical way to understand the time passing across these various events. All right, this one doesn't have a hashtag, so I'm just going to read it real quick and move on to the next one. Hey, Happy, how you doing? Hi, hey, thanks for saying, hey, love your channel, been watching a long time, first time asker. Reason why I didn't scroll past this one, I saw the cursed word. Do you think Blitzball could be small-scale PvP? No. That's it. It just isn't. Like, yeah, I get that it's technically PvP, like Lords of Verminion is technically PvP. No, I don't even think it's the Gold Saucer thing, because they said it was on the same scale as Mahjong. So I don't think it's either of those things. It's inevitable one day, but I think we can still dodge it for now. Next one, hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, Happy, thank you again for answering my previous question. I have a new one for you. I'd hope so. It'd be weird if you didn't when you use the hashtag, because some people do that, though. Would you know why we are currently unable to glamour ourselves via the plates outside of certain zone cities in battle? Yes, we do actually have a flat-out explanation for that. It is because they are concerned with the transfer of data when you are actually using the glamour plate. What it means is the glamour plate is built on top of the spaghetti code that A Realm Reborn laid the foundation for, a problem that they've constantly brought up. The way that it overwrites your information, the less variables, the more reliable it can do that. If you're able to do it in battle while you're taking combat damage or performing actions or anything along those lines, it's very, very likely that they don't know how the code would interact, or in their testing, they came across bugs that were difficult to fix with the way that the foundations were laid all those years ago. So they have actually told us that is the main reason why it can only be done in certain areas, because they really don't want the variability of combat, aggro, any sort of outside variable interrupting with the process of actually projecting the glamour plate onto your character. So that is the big reason. Now, you do give some examples: switch to a different tank class and quickly throw a saved glamour plate on a class while running maps. Yeah, so that still plays into the whole thing. Play paladin, my shield glamour to be the invisible shield. I like the macro passage of arms, so when you execute it, it auto glamours my shield. Yeah, they want to avoid all that stuff. That's why you can't regularly glamour while you're in the middle of an action, at the very least, for similar reasons. But yes, what you're asking is largely because it's too much of a variable, especially just generally in combat. It's weird that they even let you stop and do cast glamours from time to time. I know I've casted glamours at really strange times in the middle of dungeons, but most of the time you don't do that. But with the plates in particular, yes. They especially don't want you to... It's not something they want to be macroed either. Like, in terms of an in-combat appearance change, that's almost likely, no matter what they do system-wise, never going to happen. Only because that's a matter of changing data. It's too many instances of data being changed at the same time. So we do have that, and it's probably not going to change. Even with an engine change, I wouldn't expect your second situation really to come to fruition. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hi, Haps. Happy Valentine's Day for real this time. Thank you. Is it luck or is it difficulty of the Savage tier really that high? I've not cleared E12S, and sometimes it would take 2 or more days to re-clear 9 or 11. This week was particularly not cool, as I played with 5 parties trying to re-clear Litany, and none of them made it. I play them almost by heart now, but there's always someone screwing up. No, this tier really isn't that much harder. I think they each have one galaxy brain mechanic. The tiles and the seeds, for example, in E9, people just can't spatially understand how they work. They just want to do what people tell them to do and not actually understand how they work. And quite frankly, as a guide creator, that's been something that I kind of always noticed but never really put into words. Early on, obviously, all of my guides were as in detail as possible, or at least they tried to be as in detail as possible. What would be the consequences of something going wrong? Let me show you what the consequences are. How can you counter this in this way? Maybe you are in the wrong spot and you want to counter it in a different way. It was to try and get people to understand what was happening. Because in my opinion, as a guide creator, that's the best way to create a guide, is to understand the fundamentals of the ability. So that way, even if you screw up, you don't question what happened. You might question why somebody was out of place, like what did they do to get to that situation, and thus it led to your situation being as bad as it was. Maybe you missed that, but that's a lot different than literally wondering why, like, wait, why did I get pulled into the seed? It's because you didn't break your tether. Oh, I didn't even know that could happen. Because you're uninformed, and not you, but like just in that situation, that individual is uninformed and just doesn't understand how the mechanic works. And that's what this is. These mechanics benefit from people understanding how they actually work. If you understand how the clones work, if you understand how the bombs work, if you understand how everything works, then you need guides less and less. And I feel like that's more beneficial this tier than in previous years. I don't think it's any more mechanically challenging. I don't think it's any more mechanically demanding. But people don't learn. People don't try to learn. And then they can't replicate, and they can't fix the problem that they don't understand, because they're just trying to do what they were told and not what they actually know. And that's just coming to a head this tier. I don't think it's any more difficult, but Party Finder will be Party Finder. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Dude, my mustache is... I'm sorry, I'm going to be doing this a lot. My mustache is like prickling at the inside of my nose, and it is making me itchy. Hello, Haps, or heyo, Haps. I love your content and enjoy having it to watch while I grind out content. Thank you. My question is about Glamour. That's our second Glamour question so far. Do you think they'll ever revisit the current Glamour system? I feel like this overlaps with the other question. As someone who collects every piece of level 1 Glamour, I'm running out of space to store all these items since they always had new Glamour sets with every single patch. Will they just keep adding more space space. It's more likely they'll keep adding more space to the Glamour dresser, or that they will revisit it. I think that, honestly, our Glamour system kind of sucks. Transmogrification in World of Warcraft, or the way that Guild Wars 2 handles transmogrification in particular, both I feel are far superior. Even Final Fantasy XI's method. It's still archaic like the game is, but feels less archaic than 14 because it's still a bit more freeing and a bit more available, if that makes sense. So they're definitely going to keep updating it. Whether or not they completely revisit it, I think they have to at some point, no matter what. But it's going to be a while. I still think that maybe by 7.0, we're looking at a full engine rewrite. The game will be over 10 years at that point. I think there's a lot of things they want to fix. And I think it's unavoidable that at some point you just have to accept that you can't just keep building this game on the current engine with the way that it was built in the first place. So that's my hope, at the very least. And you would get your hope, or what you're wishing for, out of my hope. So let's hope it goes that way. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hello, Haps. I hope you're doing well. I am finally. It's a relaxing Sunday. My question today is regarding the Shadowbringers trailer, specifically the scene where Urianger and Y'shtola are in Rak'tika. The forest is burning in this scene, which I don't recall ever happening. Was this ever explained, and if so, what exactly happened? And what is the fate Urianger is speaking of? Yes, this event was while they were called. All of the events that you see in the trailer of all the characters that are not the main character, are not the Warrior of Darkness, they all occur while in the time between them being called from the source and when we actually go there. So I will hold the, while we wait for our friend, I will hold the line from Y'shtola. They're referring to them trying to hold the line while they're waiting for us. You can go to that burned down location in Rak'tika. Now, obviously, Urianger's just talking his normal bullshit. He's just recently been called, so he knows the future. The whole of Shadowbringer's story, he's talking about, seeing the future. And that's playing into that. But that's all that is. It's the same with Thancred freeing Reen. That is not something that we saw in particular. That is a prior attempt to save her, prior to what we see in the MSQ itself. Obviously, they recapture her, and it happens, from what I understand, multiple times. But it's all just stuff that happened prior to us actually arriving on the first. All right, this one doesn't have a hashtag, but I see the words greetings, and I see numbered, and I see the word question. So let's check it out. Greetings, Mr. H. Hope you're having a wonderful week. I am indeed. I hope the same for you. I'm doing all right. You doing all right? I'm doing all right. Two quick ones. Was wondering what your thoughts were on Dissidia and whether it has a future outside of Opera Omnia. Not based on NT, it doesn't. I'd like them to revisit the whole single-player brawler game. The ad hoc feature was nice in Dissidia, if you could actually use it. But let's not act like ad hocing was the most normal thing with the PSP Dissidia games. Ad hocing in general with the PSP was not a very normal thing for most people to do. So I think it's going to be a long time. Before you say anything else Dissidia related that isn't Opera Omnia, I think it's going to be a very long time. It could have a future, but that's up to them. I think World of Final Fantasy still needs a sequel. They even said they have a script written for it. It just needs to get greenlit, and it feels like Square Enix deliberately tried to doom that game. They released it 2 weeks before Final Fantasy 15, and then I think Maxima came out like right around an expansion launch for 14. Obviously, that's more particular to me, but it's just constantly been released by projects that overshadow it by Square Enix themselves. So it always felt like they were just, that game was doomed, and they just don't care. That's all there is to it. To a bit more personal, how are things where you are re-COVID? Over here in Northern Ireland, we are in lockdown. Bro, I try to stay not outside as often as possible. So for me, it's fine. For me personally, it's fine. I go to the grocery store once a week normally to grab some stuff, maybe order food once a week. And other than that, my person-to-person interactions are non-existent. I have a neighbor who has a dog. Dog loves to get up close to other people. I refuse to touch the dog because I don't want the owner to worry where my hands have been. I'm cleaning my hands. I wear gloves when I go out. On top of that I have to sanitize when I come back. But even then, I play all the safe cards. I make sure I take care of the essentials. I look after my family, and that's all that matters to me right now. So until things, obviously this is not so simple a statement. Until things settle down, that's going to be how I continue to live my life. And you know what? Not much different from the way I've lived my life in the previous years. Going places, never really my strong suit, in case you couldn't tell. So that's how it's going for me, and I hope you're doing all right. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hello, how you doing? I'm doing it. You doing all right? I'm doing all right. I got 2 questions. One needs a bit more context than the other. I can see based on the text. With the subject of role quests being discussed at the showcase, they made a subtle but clear change to the DPS categories when they split physical range into their own thing. Going from melee physical range to magical range to specifically melee physical, range physical, and magic DPS. What? So, just so you understand, right now with role quests, there's physical and magical, and that's it. That's all that there is. And so it's now, that's how the game is split up. It's melee physical, range physical, magic. So that was the big thing. They didn't really change much because this is how they've always described these jobs. It's always strange because a lot of people who don't, again, I'm the guy who reads and views and just, I consume so much that I'm used to them, the way that they refer to the different roles. And nothing they said was abnormal to the way they normally refer to these roles, where they call them melee physical, range physical, magic. They've always done that. We obviously, here in North America and in other countries, we just say melee ranged caster. That's it for us. And that's what we understand. But they've always said ranged, magic ranged, physical ranged, melee physical. They've always done that. So people are just picking up on it now because new jobs are on the horizon. This is a big thing. We know another melee DPS is coming. There's a lot of speculation about it. And there's always the possibility. I don't think this is any more indicative of it, but they can do whatever they want. It's their game. So never rule it out entirely. Just understand what it means in the scheme of Final Fantasy XIV, and it's not hard to envision something like a magic melee ever existing. It's not hard. It's the reverse of a red mage, essentially, if we were to break it down. But I don't think this is any more indicative of it than it has been in the past. It's just always a possibility. And 2, are you worried for the fate of one or both of the Levier twins? No. I still think that we have to lose one of the other scions before we lose one of the Levier twins. And they are so adverse to permanently killing people that I'd be more concerned about their parents or other people in Sharlayan than I would be the actual twins. They're going to go through more tragedy before they actually bite the dust. So, no, I'm not worried about, I know with Final Fantasy IV, and you make mention of it here, people are relating them to Porum and Palom, but no, not me. I don't think, let's just say this. If it were to come down to a Porum Palom situation, they'd sooner be like, I think the PSP version, where you can just replay as every character, basically, at the end. It'd be more like that, I think, than them biting the dust all the way. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hello there, Happy. Hope you are doing well. I am. Thank you. Hope the same for you. After playing through 10 again, a question comes to mind for 14 with the upcoming trial for Anima. Do you think we'll actually see Anima unchained from her bonds during the fight? Technically, we see that in Final Fantasy X when we go into the underworld and that thing and decides that it wants to be a monk main. That's definitely going to happen. Now, if you're talking about the top half, I don't think so. I think the top half being chained is very iconic to Anima herself in regards to her place in the story in Final Fantasy X. And I don't think that element's going to change much. I think the animation and the power of the lower half that happens during Anima's ultimate attack is going to be more the focus, more impact, more visual effects, but then trying to let the top half break out and transform into something entirely new. That's what I think, at the very least. Hashtag Mr. Happy Monday. Sup, Haps? You doing alright? I'm doing alright. So you doing alright? Good, we doing alright. I was wondering what your thoughts were on Viera Hrothgar in the future. Few visible hats, locked out of new hairstyles, no opposite gender, Viera Sage art, not having the headband. I'm starting to think they may have given up. I don't think they've given up. I think that this still is a result of Spaghetti Code. Here's the thing. This goes back to the other question I answered. The Spaghetti Code they're sitting on is not unworkable. We've been shown that. There are things we thought we would never have, things they told us we'd never have that we got. The amount of individual per piece effort that it takes is so high that it detracts from releasing new things. So I think the problem is that they want to keep releasing things on a set schedule, and there is just no time to go back and do it relative to the amount of new work that they have to do. I don't think that it is impossible that somebody is slowly but surely working on this. And again, if we do ever get an engine rewrite, obviously that at least somewhat consumes the problem. But I think that they maybe need to start looking at pieces that don't work with Viera and Hrothgar and just not even making them look good. Just say, fuck the ears, fuck your weird shaped head, just plop it on, I know it's not as simple as that, and I know a lot of people would like to think it's as simple as that, when they have to send the data from the server to the client versus something just being modified client-side, because I know that's what some people are thinking reference-wise, and it's not the same thing, I can assure you that. But they need to update people on it at the very least about what's going on internally, how the team is approaching it. And if I get a chance to ask, I actually would like to ask about that, because it has been a very tough couple of years for players on those races, and it doesn't look like it's going to get easier anytime soon. If they are planning on making changes to it, May or the media tour would be the time to do it, and we probably won't have a proper media tour, so really just a live letter in place of a media tour. I can't, but I'm still not hopeful. And I'm sorry to those of you who play your off-guard Viera. I'm not hopeful it'll happen anytime, even in 6.x. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Morning, Haps. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're doing well as well. The extended break now. Finally, I want to go back to tackle ultimate fights. I think I can see how this question is going. My question is, which one's a good one to tackle first and why? I think I answered this for you. I know I answer this a lot. This question comes up very, very frequently. My order is always Uwu T Ukab. Uwu is by and far the easiest of the bunch. It has been absolutely obliterated by job changes in terms of DPS and heal checks. All the mechanics that were of great mystery when it first came out are all solved. All of the proper strategies are there. Some of them even easier than they were back then. And it's also not that long of a fight. T has very high highs and very low lows. Wormhole, Limit Cut, and the first phase are all going to be very, very tough for people. Well, Wormhole, Nisi, and the first phase all have moments that are really tough for people to learn, but so much of the fight is actually really easy, and it's comparable in length to Uwu, that it's definitely a better thing to tackle than Ukab. Ukab is hyper punishing. It is the longest fight, and while its DPS and heal checks are nothing too major since the changes, one twister going awry, whole thing screwed up. One tower missed, whole thing screwed up. One LB screwed up, whole thing screwed up. So many things can go wrong that are instant duns that exist in the other ones, but it just feels so much more demoralizing when they happen in Ukab because of the length of the fight. That's definitely the last one people should tackle, in my opinion. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, Haps. Long time since I've asked a question. How you doing? I'm doing all right. You doing all right? I'm doing all right. I have a few questions. With the delay of Ultimate, crying face. A couple of my friends think this is a sign that Yoshida will cut down on Ultimates produced released in the future. What do you think about this? Do you think that this is a likely possibility? Do you think we'll get 3 Ultimates in 6.x? I'll tell you what. 3 Ultimates in 6.x, not happening. I obviously, I can't guarantee anything. I'm not a developer. They have made no such inclination. Not happening. It's going to be 1 in 6.1 and 1 in 6.5. The development team has very specifically stated that it is extremely... Developers don't even like developing the Ultimates. All 3 of the developers who have released an Ultimate up to this point has said that they don't like doing it. Because it is so insanely stressful and specific. And because it's such cutting edge content, if there's any flaws, any shortcomings, it is under such major scrutiny by the only people it's designed for, that it is an absolute horror to design content for it. Main reason why the Uwu developer had so much fun with his is because he made it streamable. He specifically made it so it was a better fight to stream and an easier fight to re-clear. Because it was way better for him to have these side objectives than it was for like the Ukab developer, the T developer to actually do these things. They don't like making it. They don't want to do them that frequently, and there's not that many people who can do them. So, never are we going to see 3 Ultimates. It's not going to happen. By the way, anyone who thinks our Ultimate was from 5.3 was cut, no, they told us even before 5.1 that they were going to do an Ultimate in 5.1 and 5.5, which obviously fell through because of the pandemic, because that was what Raiders had told them they wanted. The biggest complaint about the 4.x Ultimates was that there wasn't one in 4.5. The biggest piece of feedback that myself and many other people gave was that if we have to only have 2, we would want them to be in 0.1 and 0.5, something to capitalize on a new expansion hype within a few months of it coming out, and to bridge the gap to the next Savage tier, with allowing for that little gap in between in 0.3, where they normally do funky, weird things like we saw with the Bosnian front. And then 0.5 to carry people into excitement for the next expansion. That was the way that we decided to do it. Also gave the final tier more gear purpose. So this was all feedback that they took. A pandemic just fucked it up. We were never supposed to get one in 5.3. 5.5 was the plan all along. That got fucked. It's going to be 6.1 and 6.5, unless another pandemic fucks it up, in which case that would be mind-blowing if we had a second fucking pandemic and throughout 6.x, and I hope I didn't just predict the future, because fuck me, I don't want to be right. So no 3 ultimates in 6.x. So if your friends are implying that they think there's going to be 3, but because of this, they're cutting ultimates, they're kind of right. Almost. Not really cutting it, because they're not even starting development on the next one. This got pushed to that, so that's going to be the 6.1 ultimate, and then there'll be another 6.5. But no way. I refuse to believe there will be a 6.3 ultimate. So no, 2 ultimates in 6.x. All right, hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hi, Haps. You doing all right? I'm doing all right. You doing all right? I'm doing all right. I'm sure you'll be getting variants of this question for the next couple of months, probably. I don't know what question it is, but if you have to preface it with that, the answer is probably yes. So I want to preface this by saying that I am not asking for speculation or prediction. Instead, I'm asking if we hypothetically put our creative mind to work on the dev team and you had to come up with an identity for a new melee job, what would it be? You're saying not the name or the weapon, how it feels, but Puppet Master. That's it. Puppet Master as a tank. At that, believe it or not, I think Puppet Master should be a tank. They just hold it, like, you know how Princess Peach holds up Toad for her, what is it, her down? Is it her down B? I haven't played in a while. I will say her down B, and then it counters. Yeah, that's how you block with Puppet Master. Just hold the puppet, and then you just have maneuvers, and maneuvers change your different skills. So if you have 2 fire maneuvers and a wind maneuver, it changes one of his abilities to do this, and if you have a fire and 2 winds, it changes the ability to do this, and then those just are buffs that you maintain and things like that. So that's very sad. I've always had that in the back of my mind, but it's never going to happen. So, sorry. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, Haps, how you doing? I'm doing all right. You doing all right? I'm doing all right. My February is like your October, so thanks for the distraction. Oh, yeah. At first, I thought that was a seasonal thing. But yeah. I explained that last October. No, I understand. I understand entirely. Anyway, I wasn't paying attention to housing at all when Shirogami was released. Shirogane. Shirogami. So in preparation for Ishgard in 6.1, when the housing plots open, will it be a free-for-all, or will they start with timers? So they don't start with timers, mind you. It is first come, first serve, get in, buy a house immediately. The only time a timer kicks in is when somebody's house is abandoned. Now that means either that, somebody more than 45 days passed and their house was automatically demolished, or that they move their plot to another location and now that plot is opening up. That's when the random timer kicks in. And the only thing that can bypass a random timer is the movement of a house, like somebody transferring their house to another location. That bypasses the timer entirely. So no, they are first come, first serve. You better get into the server ASAP. Know what plot you're looking for. Try to find it in a location that you're hoping hasn't already been taken, because odds are the longer you take to find it, the worse it's going to be, man. So that's it. Yeah, it's just be fast. Be awake. Be fast. Go. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hello, Haps. So with the new ultimate confirmed to be Nidhogg, not necessarily Nidhogg. It's confirmed to be the Dragon Song War. There is more than a Nidhogg at play here, which certainly means a new form for him. What do you think we're going to get? Golden Nidhogg, Platinum Nidhogg, Super Nidhogg God? No, I actually think Thornton and Nidhogg he's going to become like a Dragon Knight. In a sense, like he's gonna be like I don't know, some crazy fucking shit's gonna happen, because they said that this is more of a what if scenario than the other ones. So that means that while it is actually going to tell us the saga of the Dragon Song War, it's going to be very much, think of like how Perfect Alexander, comes out and like tries to trap us in a time cage, or Ultima absorbs these super powered primals, and now he tries to trap us. He tries to absorb our ether and destroy the world with the greatest Ultima, just of absorbing the Warrior of Light and 7 other Echo Blessed adventures. He literally disintegrates us and absorbs us into his being and becomes the ultimate like life form in a sense, basically. And Bahamut, on the other hand, he just goes golden and he's way more powerful. He's the least what if scenario. But they said this is going to be more what if than even those scenarios. So I think the idea of like Thornton like breaking out of Nidhogg's eye after he's been defeated, like this Ascalon like comes out of the eye and then stabs Nidhogg in the chest, and then Thornton breaks through and he absorbs Nidhogg, and now he's like this dragon knight with his dragon knights of the round, or it's going to be some crazy shit like that. I don't think it's necessarily going to be that, but it's going to be crazy shit like that. All right, and so now we're going to move on to the lightning round, only because a lot of the questions I scrolled through, they're either questions I get really frequently, or they're questions I don't have great answers for. So I'm going to quickly run down and see if I can find some things. Do you think do you think Blitzball could be small scale PvP? I fortunately answered that. Somebody else did ask something similar to that. Do you think it could actually be Blitzball? It was kind of asked in a different way. It wasn't asked, do you think Blitzball could be the small PvP? Somebody asked, do you think the small scale PvP could be Blitzball? So I skipped over that one that was there a little bit earlier. There's the one about the glamour. So I usually have to scroll through because unfortunately it's not great to be marking these out. Or there's not like a great system for me to be marking these out. There was one really, really long-winded one about somebody's connection to the game. It's and them asking like what to do. They said they were using a VPN, but they have to like hop through a non-North American country, which gives them a great amount of latency. I don't use a latency-based VPN, so I didn't really have an answer for this. With 14 in particular, I'm fortunate enough to live on the West Coast, which is where the servers are. So I don't live at the servers, but because of my proximity to it, it makes it just a lot easier for me to not have to worry about that. I use a security VPN when I'm not live streaming. Security VPNs will actually increase your lag if you game with them, though. So they're for generally browsing the internet or safety on devices like your phone or your tablet. So I use that. That's the only VPN I use. Surfshark, by the way, shout out to the sponsor. So I don't have anything else to really offer. That's why I kind of skipped over that question. I just don't have any advice for it. Somebody asked, when do you think I can pre-order expansions? Probably in May. Or in May, they'll announce it for June or something like that. That would be my prediction at the very least. Someone's coming back asking for basic pointers. I mean, that's such a tough question because there are no real basic pointers. You just catch up on the story, do all the side quests you missed, and that's it. I mean, you determine where you really go from there. You know, if you never really messed with the hunt when you played before, maybe start messing with the hunt now because it's a great way to, you know, get a ton of resources without a ton of effort. You just have to be able to find the trains, join the trains, and follow along with the trains. And once you get into it, it's fixed. It's made my life so much easier ever since I started doing the hunt ages and ages ago. Here's the one where somebody said, isn't battling but blitzball? And they asked, is my way of thinking too out of the box? And I'm like, yeah, I'll wait for the lightning round for that one right there. That was the two questions with the ranged magic DPS thing, the terminology that was used. There's the anima question, the VR Hrothgar question. Somebody asked about, is this a feasible system to fix pet AI? Here's the thing, when people ask questions about, is this feasible? The bigger question is, a YouTuber will never know the answer to that. A YouTuber with some basic understanding of programming and game design, which is at the most I can offer, will tell you that the answer to that question isn't that simple. Is it feasible? Is it not? Because we don't know just how bad the spaghetti code is. We don't know why the ghosting problem with pet AI is as much of a problem as it is, other than that animations are tied to damage. And thus, because the animations don't finish right away, if you do another thing that would remove the thing performing the animation, then the damage doesn't go through. So we can at least dissect that. And that is something that you could look to is, think about the way they fixed Black Mage, for example, in terms of like when Firestarter procs. As soon as the spell effect finishes, before the damage is dealt, it refreshes Firestarter. They'd have to be able to do something like that for the damage itself, and we've yet to see that being a thing in the game. It's not something that's exercised in other places. But making pet abilities, player abilities, we have that already. That is what they are. They just tell the pet to do something, and again, the animation of the damage determines when the damage happens and not when the skill is actually clicked. So something on the back end causes that, and I don't know if they have and I don't know if it's feasible for them to fix it. And just making pet abilities, player abilities has already shown to not be a solution to that, because that's how it works right now. Now, if you get rid of the pet in its entirety and the action just creates a pet just for the sake of doing that, and thus there's no way it can be ghosted, that's something I've been advocating for ages, to make Summoner less about having this pet that's constantly there and more about individual abilities calling a pet to perform an attack, because then you don't have to worry about ghosting. Whether or not they do that, I couldn't tell you, and it's hard to know. Somebody asking about what will be affected by the stat squish. Everything that has stats on it now that's between levels 50 and 80 will all be affected. I sincerely think material will be condensed down. Item level will stay the same, but how item level is calculated will change. But almost everything that has numbers associated should change because of the stat squish. Somebody said they had an epiphany about melee jobs. Again, these are really tough because they're not based on anything. Again, it's a lot of us like to throw out random speculations, like the speculation I threw out about Ultimate with Ascalon. It doesn't necessarily have a basis in anything. It's the brain going nuts, thinking of like any sort of creative, crazy situation we could think of. I'm not an authority on that. I'm not an authority on people's speculation. I'm not any sort of validation on people's speculation. I don't make it any more likely. So whenever I get questions like that, I'm just like, I don't know. Like, could it be possible for your idea to work? I don't know. I'm not the one making the game. Best I can say is based on this thing that happens in the lore or that thing that happens in the lore or things that developers have said, things that are very unlikely or likely to happen. And job speculation doesn't work. Nobody fucking guessed Sage was going to have fin funnels. Nobody guessed we'd have a Gundam weapon for a Sage. Even if you guessed Sage, in my opinion, you were still wrong because you would have never guessed that they would have fin funnels. Like, you couldn't win that. The people who had the best job guesses, people said, yeah, the G-Warrior will be the new job. Who would have fucking known? They had the best guess. And they weren't right either because never mind. You know where I'm going with that. You understand. I'm not an authority on speculation. Like, I don't add any validation to it. Are you going to be making the other 5.4 Savage raids? No, I've really shied away from doing a whole lot of Savage guides. I like to do them. They're a lot of fun to make. But man, the volatility that comes with it, either from people who don't understand it's a week 1 strat or people who can't learn anything other than the first thing they ever learn, it's a pain in the ass, man. Like, I don't use the strategy that's in my E9S video anymore. Just like Ilya didn't use the strategy that was in his E8S video, because we're willing to learn and adapt and figure out new things. And unfortunately, even if we were to put something out there that says, oh, this strategy exists, which there's tons of resources out there that tell people these things, they learn something once and learning something else is pointless because, oh, it works, it's fine. And unfortunately, those crews don't mix and match super well because some people want to be learning and evolving and playing better, finding things that are better for certain roles versus other roles. And other people want to beat it every week and they don't really care much about the results other than the, boss hitting 0 HP. So creating Savage raid guides has always been tough. It's tougher now than it ever was because there's so many resources and the people that are involved in that scene have such different wavelengths that it's really stressful actually to make those. And even when I do make them and even when they are acceptable, something else will happen. It's only a matter of time before a more perfect strategy comes out. Not to mention that sometimes by the time I get around to making the guide, a strategy I didn't make is the normal one. And now I'm just ripping off somebody else's strategy to put out a video because people want my video on it. They want my vocabulary, my music, my editing, whatever the reason may be. And that doesn't feel good as a creator when something you didn't create is the focus of your content. It's one thing to cover news. It's another thing to be the projecting, hey, this is my guide to this. I made this. This I didn't make at all, but it's in here because it's popular. Okay, that's just how it is. So that's always tough. And that's something that is always been rough for me. It's actually why I like doing kill videos like you bring up here. People can see the week 1 strat, but they know they can maybe dissect it and see it a little bit better about ways it can be improved or things along those lines. But it's a tough one. It is a real tough one. Somebody asked that any insight as to if we might hear about a new limited job? No, because we didn't hear about it already, and there's no way of knowing when they're going to announce something, if they're even planning on doing something. We don't even know if they are going to do another limited job. Maybe they don't. Maybe they do. Who knows? We don't know. You got to wait. Nothing else we can do about it. Somebody said they don't have people to do endgame content with, and the party finder is the party finder. Any resources or tips to find a reliable static? I mean, there's the recruitment Reddit, there's the balanced Discord, and then I think there's some spots on the individual server or data center forums on Final Fantasy XIV's official forums. But other than that, no, not really. I don't really use those resources unless I absolutely have to. So I don't have any more advice. Just those 3 things. That's it. That's all I can really think of. Is there anything else? Can you clip Sly at this reaction to the trailer? I actually did on Twitter, but I didn't post it to YouTube. If you go to my Twitter and you go down back to when it was first announced, you can find it. You can find just that clip, and it's really good. Do you think that in 6.1 we'll go to the New World, another shard, something different? Yes to one of those. We don't know. We don't know the story. There's no way to guess where we're going if we don't know where we are. Obviously, I want to go to Mrhappy because Thavnair has a trading route with Mrhappy. They're the only ones that have access to Mrhappy. And we're finally going to Thavnair. So, going to Rad's at Hand, take a boat to Mrhappy, new expansion. Bam. Done. I want to go to Mrhappy. But, I mean, where we're going, who knows? Boom Age introduced more New World stuff. They didn't like teach us it, but they told us more about it. We have the Mammal Jaw already, which are, in the New World, we know there's other shards out there. The 13th is still fucked for however long it has been. Mrhappy is there. We still don't know if we're actually going to Sharlayan or if it's just going to be, present in the story with the form of Sage or any other elements. We just definitely think we're going there. And then there's all sorts of areas that aren't Garlemald and Ilsabard. There's like island chains that we could go to. We don't know what the hell else is even out there. There's probably stuff we don't even know about. We're going to the freaking moon. We're going somewhere else. That's all. That's all I'm confident enough to say. Do you think Gaia's job is coming for Melee? No, Gaia doesn't have a job. Gaia just has a hammer. Gaia is a big play on the whole Hammer of Darkness brought to bear against the Shield of Light. It's why a lot of people are holding on to the hammer being the weapon for Endwalkers. And again, I don't think it's an unreasonable guess. I'm just in Club Sight. That's where my predictions are laying. Somebody was asking what changes do you think they'll make to Aster White Mage to further their distinction? I mean, they're not going to have as many shields. White Mage has Benison. I'd expect that Aster is going to have Celestial Intersection, and that'll be their Benison. Other than that, I don't think they have to actually make that many changes to Astro. It's just going to be like playing a Diurnal Astro without them really. I think Noct Sect is going to be the name of the shield from Celestial Intersection, similar to like Sword Oath is part of Atonement. So they kept Sword Oath in the game without it being a stance anymore. So I think something like that. But other than that, I don't think they're really going to have to change that much. Yeah, I just don't think they will. Someone asking about making Gil and bots, saying that bots affect the economy. Bots affect a lot of the, like, they're not smaller economies, but they're mass economies. Things like shards and crystals and materials that are able to be earned en masse by low-level players. They normally dominate those markets. And that affects new players, because new players are going to be going to those items a lot. I'm sure market board botting is a bigger issue than I think it is, because I don't do any of that. I don't really go to the market board unless I need something very specific like tinctures or food. So I don't have that much knowledge on it. I make my money just gradually through playing different forms of content in the game. Maybe do some hunts, do some maps, do, Delibram and hope for a hairstyle, whatever, things like that. So even if there is, I wouldn't be knowledgeable enough on it to comment on it. It would be ignorant, anything that I say, because it's just not coming from a place of knowledge. And then there's my question as a dancer player, what new job actions do you think they could use? Bro, I don't even know about new actions, but they really need to make Saber Dance extend the duration of frickin' the finishing flourishes, so you can Saber Dance during your burst window without fearing of losing your procs. Please do that. I also think improv needs to be changed. I hate the way that it requires, players to be in range. It makes it much less useful in 4-man content. Think that needs to be revisited, but new abilities, honestly, I don't know. Maybe something that instantly resets standard step or something like that, so you can double step, but I mean, that's not really that necessary so much as it's just kind of cool. Oh, look, I can step twice now. It's the Subamageshi of Dancer. I don't know what they can do. Probably another supporting tool. They'll probably give them something else that like supports the party and not something offensive, but nothing major if they do that. They're already so dependent on helping other people, but that is the theme of the job. So maybe another buff to share with their dance partner. Something of the sort. I don't know what. Maybe they'll get a rescue for. Oh, you know what? They can make it so that they can just dash to their dance partner like ethereal manipulation style. No, I would actually be. We have so much mobility. That would be bullshit. No, I have no idea. I actually do want to make a video where I predict some things that like jobs need or jobs want, or that I want for jobs at the very least. So I am considering that for a video. I have a list of video ideas here, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 videos. I almost miscounted because one of them's bolded, so I almost forgot to not include that one. But that's about it. And I think that is the last actual question that we're gonna have for this episode. Yep. So thank you everyone for tuning into this episode of Mondays with Mr. Happy. If you have a question, throw it in the comment section of the video below. And assuming I have a reasonable enough answer for it, I will be able to answer it for you. But with that, thank you for watching. Be sure to like, favorite, subscribe, and share. And by the way, I forgot to mention this at the start of the video, but we are releasing Best of Series for State of the Realm. In the coming weeks, I'm going to be just looking through and finding best of scenarios, things that I feel were exciting, fun, and that can bring a little bit more livelihood and personality to State of the Realm, especially digging back years of content. We have so much content that we can go through to find some funny moments for people to enjoy. And I think that would be a bright little new thing to bring to State of the Realm and to bring to our channel. But with that, thank you for watching. I'll see all of you in the next one. And until then, take care.